I'm from Jacksonville, Florida.
I'm from England, Cambridge, a small village named Hardwick. I first moved to America in 2010 September and came through into high school in a junior position. And then I previously graduated in England at the age of 16 at technically high school. And then when I moved over here in 2010, I was 17 and got pushed into a junior year. So I did 2 years of American high school, reside in Florida. I'm not a US citizen, I am a green card holder. When I first moved to America, I was on my father's H4 visa, which was a dependent. So I wasn't able to work, and I was only able to go to school. And my father came over due to an employer hiring him to do his job field over in the United States. The expiration for myself would have been when I turned 21. So the system is when you're 21 years old, you have to apply for your own visa, because obviously I was a dependent, so now I can't be. And that's when it all just got caught in the system.
Sam surprised me with an envelope, and it had 2 plane tickets to England and 2 little pence. And then we went to England. We visited his sister for Christmas and New Year's, 15 going into 16 because we were there through New Year's. And then we spent Christmas and New Year's there. And then we went back we tried to go back in the beginning of 2016.
22 at the time, and been approved my own personal visa as a student, and then been approved my extension through the embassy. I did this all by myself personally, and then when I left the country, I was unaware that I had to go for an embassy appointment due to the fact that I left the country. So I need to get, I guess, one more clarification of why I'm in America with a personal interview at the US Embassy. So the way I found out about that was when I went to go fly home. I think it was the 6th of January 2016. We went to try and get checked in, and they said they had an issue with my visa.
So we joked the whole trip, didn't we? We joked about
he's
not going to be able to get let back in, blah, blah. Then we got to the airport, and I got checked in, and I checked in Sam's luggage under my name for some reason. So they checked that in, and then they checked me and put me aside, and they went to check Sam, and the lady was taking a really long time. We're like, okay, this is taking forever. And she just kind of was asking for paperwork that we had no idea. I had no idea what it was. You obviously did, but we didn't have it. I knew we didn't have it. So she was asking for all this paperwork, and we just didn't have any of it. And she kept asking for your passport, and then they had to step aside. And that's kind of when I knew, oh my God, something's going wrong, obviously.
The guys requesting documents, and I'll give it everything I have. Obviously, we joked around with it, so I brought documents that I thought I might need just to prove in case. And then he went back, tried to make some phone calls, and he came back over, and then he put his arm around me, and that's when I knew I wasn't going to end up going back. The airport recommended that obviously we have to go to the embassy to get an interview, and the only way to do that is by booking an embassy appointment online. Those things usually take it can be anywhere from a month to 3 months, depending on how busy it is. You can check every day and reset the page, and cancellations pop up. And after that, we managed to get an interview. I think it was at end of February, wasn't it?
Yeah.
End of February, we managed to get an interview, and so in the meantime, I didn't work. I just kind of sat around and helped my sister out, living at my sister's, because I was in denial of the fact that I would have to find a job. There was no point finding a job. I just enjoy the extended vacay, take it for what it is and move on.
We thought it was going to be see you in a couple weeks when we said bye at the airport. And then we slowly started realizing this is going to take a lot longer than we thought it was. We're not going to see each other for a long time. This is serious.
Essentially deported myself for about 10 months.
Yeah.
After not getting re-entry in January, we got an appointment in February for the US Embassy, which we thought was just protocol, and we'll just do that because my father's done the same thing before, where he left the country and he had to go for the US Embassy appointment, but he had that scheduled ahead of time. For myself, due to the fact that the university and everything approved and the US Embassy approved my student visa, we thought we were all in the clear, but hence the meeting in February at the US Embassy. So after the US Embassy, I went in, head high, obviously just bringing the paperwork, thought they needed, had the interview, which is just a stand-up interview stall between you and another guy, and it's just one clear glass. He's asking you a bunch of different questions to do with your visa, where you've been staying, what I'm doing, what my degree is. So I felt obviously informed on what my degree was and everything, my intentions. I'm technically a non-resident since I'm an international student. So the rules of the non-resident is the fact that your main goal is to come back to your home country eventually, and you have to have that set main goal in the future and proven on paper. So for example, for an example of proof that you're going to reside back in England is owning a house, an employer giving you a letter, etc., etc. Family, yeah. If my mother and father was in England, it probably would have been a different story. But the fact that my mother and father were in America, it wasn't helping my story. But me going in, thinking that everything's fine, the guy was asking me a lot of questions, and then I just saw it go downhill. Where does your mother live? Where does your father live? Oh, they live in America, and you're a non-resident, so where are you going to come back? Was the big question. And then eventually he just turned around and said to me, yeah, sorry, I'm going to have to deny your re-entry. Assumption was that, just go for a protocol visit at the embassy, which I've done before. It's not like I've never been in the embassy before. Show them the paperwork, which I've been approved for, and then Bob's your uncle, and I'm flying back. Like the outcome was the complete opposite, and really, after that, first thing I did obviously was tell Morgan and tell my family, everyone was just devastated. It was a really early appointment as well, so everyone in America, it was like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. when I was calling them, and then nobody could believe it really.
I don't think anyone understood the extent of what was going on. You know what I mean?
No.
I don't think anyone was like, oh gosh, this is serious. You're not coming. Everyone thought you were going to come back. It was going to be fine. And
then we talked about what options we could have. So we looked for many different options. I've got a good group of people over here, so a lot of people asked to see if they can help. Avon Koo, his brothers and his family offered to try and get me over through employment because they own a company and they might be able to push me over. As you dig deeper, you need to have a full college education and a specific background, a specific industry. Skill set. Like my father came over, it's a switch from a school visa to a work visa so that we can, just get me in the country. So March and April, it took about a couple of months to get preempt. So back in February, what he recommended was not to appeal it, because usually you can appeal it, but due to the fact that I think it was section 14B, I think, of some kind of legislation or whatever, we can always reapply and submit more paperwork since they requested more. So what I did is call my people who I know in England, and from my old employer I requested her to write a document of employment that she's going to re-employ me once I get my degree in England. We got a lawyer that built up a case and a lot of evidence, and we finally got the second appointment. In the meantime, I found a job at a local pub. Second interview beginning of April with the lawyer, and the lawyer's prepping me for the interview. He supplied us with paperwork, and obviously when we apply for a meeting with the US Embassy again for the second time, we obviously have to make the US Embassy aware that we have a lawyer who's helping us. So obviously nerves are breaking. Second interview in April, and it's quite funny. I got called to the same guy, but he can't interview me. So he said, I'm going to have to jump down 2 windows because the same guy can't interview you twice because it's unfair, which is fair enough. I mean, the guys behind the window, whole job is to literally look at it black and white, no emotions at all, and just if it doesn't meet the system, it doesn't meet the system. And it was pretty short and sweet, and he pretty much I could tell he was about to say no, and he didn't allow me to show the extra information. that the lawyer gave me to provide. As you know, that was the whole reason the first time I got rejection, I thought, because of lack of information. He denied me for the second time, which obviously, as we had a lawyer involved, we know what the other options are after this. And one was obviously the simple reapply and get the embassy appointment. The second option was to reapply again for a second interview and with supported documents. And then the third option was through marriage on both sides. So Morgan could come over to England, or I could come over to America.
Mm-hmm.
And that process is obviously through the K1 visa, which is fiance visa.
Well, he proposed to me, but we knew like that was the last option. We're like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah,
we're gonna get married.
Morgan and I had no intentions of splitting up in the future, and we both obviously are aware that it was a forced upon to push it forward, but it never was a forced upon choice.
Yeah.
So it was a simple, this is the only way we're going to be together. It was either, Morgan marries me in my country, or I marry Morgan in her country.
Because we realized this was like taking a long time and this wasn't gonna like finish anytime soon, so I went to visit him in March.
Quit your job and visit.
And then you proposed to me on March 20th, and we called the lawyer and filed the paperwork. I found a new job and we filed the paperwork before I even flew home. Like it was like right away, we were ready to get it done and get it started because we knew it could be like a super long process.
Obviously we had both options. It was England or America.
Yeah, so I could have gone to England and got married, but there was a lot behind it. I would have had to live there for 3 months, own property, like, yeah, all these things that we just were like, this might not be realistic.
Yeah, I would have
It
had
was-
to own property.
It was like you either got married and then waited while you were married, or you got engaged and then waited and then got married at the end of it. So we thought it was better off to be engaged, wait, because we were already doing that anyways, and then get married at the end and have you here while we're married.
Right.
So-
K1 visa is obviously to jump through hoops, and once you're through one hoop, then you just wait for the other hoop to get.
There's different checkpoints.
Right.
There's different checkpoints you have to make when you do the visa. Like you have to get a notification 1, then a notification 2, then you have to get an interview, then you have to get a medical, and then you can finally get approved and then go get married. So each time is like, I was so obsessed with it. I was on a website that showed you how long this should be taking. So you would just wait and you would read forums and stuff, and you would just wait and see when yours would happen.
Yeah.
You would get these notifications on your case tracker that was like bright green, and it would say you're approved for your first one, you're approved for your second one. And we were just like waiting for those things to happen.
We were following different couples who were doing the same process
Yeah.
to see the flow of time that was happening. They had a real-time live update too, which was kind of cool, and it was always changing. So it was pretty accurate. Like one of them was an estimate of 8 weeks, and it was like 9 weeks. Sometimes it was 12 weeks, and you got it in 10 weeks.
But some
So-
of them were like extreme. Like some of them said they could have taken over a year. The time we got engaged to the time that you had your interview, it was nonstop, like lawyer prepping, like FaceTimes, all like, you know what I mean? Like we were literally prepping for this moment. So we were so nervous because he had got denied 2 times, and it was like what we were used to.
Yeah. And I mean, the lawyer was very confident in our case because due to the fact that we've been together for almost 3 years before.
Mm-hmm. Phone calls, we had to give text messages.
Wedding dress receipt,
Yeah, wedding dress receipt, like proof that we were going to get married, engagement pictures, any photos.
family pictures.
Yeah, we had to give letters from family and friends, like attesting that we were actually going to get married, saying that they knew who Sam was, that they
Yeah.
liked Sam, and we just had to literally pile it all off and send it off to them.
So the K1 visa is only valid for 90 days when you're in the country. So once you step foot in the country, you have to get married within 90 days. And so on my third interview, it was a very quick and simple interview. It was almost, I was an hour early because I was anxious. And then I got there and they actually interviewed me early as well. And then I was in and out. Usually MC, you're in there for about 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours usually. And I was in and out within an hour. I mean, when I called Morgan, she didn't even expect it. And it was good news, obviously. I got accepted back in.
So
I got the first step where the embassy accepts me, but you never know at the airport when you get denied in January 2016. You think you're going to go to the airport and get denied again. Obviously, because the K1 visa is pushed on time, and we were doing everything at a fast pace. We didn't really know if I was even getting accepted, but we knew if I got accepted at the US Embassy, then I would be coming over as soon as I get my passport, which means I would have to get married within 90 days. So in the airport on the way to America, because obviously when you Google something, you get the worst. And I Googled all stories about getting denied at the immigration officer, because obviously when all I'm showing them is when you get accepted to the US Embassy, you get an envelope and it's sealed, and you're not allowed to open it. They have to give that to the immigration officer. And usually when you give it to the immigration officer has a nice little big sigh and goes, "All right, come with me." And then you have to go for an interview process at the airport. And this is where a whole separate room where it's all people with immigration deals. And so I got the immigration office in Dublin, because it was quicker rather than Orlando, because obviously Orlando's huge, Dublin's a little bit smaller. 2 people got denied as I sitting there waiting anxiously, filling out a form, which I think I know what I'm writing in, and an officer's screaming at an Irishman saying that, "Do you work in the States? Do you work in the States? I'm going to ask you one more time if you work in the States." And then he gets kicked out and sent back to wherever he flew from. And so then I stand up, nervously dropping everything in front of me, and she's asking me questions. And George, obviously it's genuine, so there wasn't much behind it. And she ended up asking what my dogs' names were, because there's pictures of dogs and where I live, and she ended up having a house in Jacksonville too. And all right, enjoy your stay. So it was quite. It was the last few steps were easy, but I think it's justifiable, since the fact that as soon as you account for someone, you have to account for everyone. So just because I have a story where I spent 6 years in the States and then got messed up through the system, doesn't mean the fact that, it's just, at the end of the day, you stick them in the rules. You can't always bend them completely. Can't make exceptions for one person and not anyone else. So realistically, they're doing the job and they're doing it pretty well. And it was a matter of just me not having the education on my side of immigration, and me just really just after being comfortable for 5-6 years in the US, thinking that it's all right, because obviously previously I've been back and forth to England and the US before and had no issues. So this was obviously, like Morgan said earlier, it was a running joke the whole time when I was over there.
I guess it was justifiable, because like you said, it's they don't care about your emotions or what you're doing. They just want to go through protocol, and they did it, and they did it well. I mean, they did their job. Obviously you have to wait a while, but that's just anything. You have to be patient. It taught us so much patience. So I actually think, like I said, I wouldn't have changed anything. I think it was good.